I overdress for everything that I do.
Yeah.
Usually, and it's because like I know people are going to stare at me, so I don't want to look like shit when they do it. But even like for me, for example, pop into the shop to get milk, I wouldn't
Yeah.
ever do it in like
All right, you have to be
yeah,
all glam.
yeah. So I have to glam up to go to the fucking garage.
Wow. Luke Manton, welcome to the Purpose-Led Leadership Podcast. We've met on a number of occasions at Leah Turner's party, and we've talked a lot online. Delighted to have you on. For those that don't know you, just tell the audience who you are.
So I am Luke Manton. I'm the founder and owner of Fuck Off Manton Executives, a VA and marketing agency. I think I was kind of completely unknown until I posted a video about what life is like with Tourette's as an adult.
Yeah, I've seen your TED Talk. I've seen your stuff online. There's a lot to get through. Let's dive into the Tourette's thing. You got Tourette's quite late compared to other people.
Fuck off.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with Tourette's in my mid-20s. So I'm 31 now, nearly 32. Fuck off. So it turns out I actually have mild tics as a child, just like a double blink. Other than that, absolutely nothing. I got sick, and then due to like swelling in my brain and subsequent brain damage, fuck you can't wait. Tourette's was my parting gift from that, which I had no idea adult onset Tourette's was even a thing. I'd never met anyone with.
So when you kind of first found out that you got it, I mean, how did that affect you, and how did you deal with that?
It was a really like slow process, because initially, after like a set of seizures, I couldn't talk at all. So it wasn't like you see now with like loads of like vocal tics and things. I just couldn't keep my head still. I was constantly throwing my head back, clenching my jaw, and I couldn't really talk at all. That was like super difficult, because I'd always been the like one that would throw in like the witty line or the quick one or something like that. But all of that was kind of gone, and I was in like an absolute panic because nobody knew what was happening. I couldn't have any answers. Following that, the vocal tics came. I started talking again, but with a stammer on every single word. Thinking back on it now, I don't even think I could put into words the like level of frustration and like anger and I don't know, sadness around it. I think back then I wanted nothing more than just to be like normal or how I was before.
It must have affected your confidence as well at the time.
100%. I refused to go out. I wouldn't answer the door. I wouldn't even answer the phone, because I sounded so It sounded so much different than before. Like it took absolutely everything.
Did it kind of make you feel kind of like, obviously made you feel different, but it made you feel almost like unworthy, or kind of like that you couldn't sort of almost communicate with others, so you're better off not communicating kind of thing? Or
100%. So even my partner George and I have been together for years, but he's the most patient and kind person. But even at home, talking to him, it would take me so long to finish a full sentence that I would just get so annoyed throughout that I'd be like, forget it. And it got me to the point where I didn't want to talk to anyone, not even him.
It must be difficult though, because like I've just delved straight into it, and I'm sure there's times when you think, for fuck's sake, I don't want Tourette's to be my life, but it kind of is your life. So how do you comprehend that?
I think now it's kind of different. Now I've accepted it. It's like it's a big part of it. People are going to notice. It's going to get mentioned. It's going to get spoke about. And if I think about the positives that have come from this, the level of confidence I have now has gone past where I used to be, even pre-Tourette. So it's kind of changed the game there. It's opened up doors to like new opportunities that I wouldn't have ever had before. But there are still days I absolutely fucking hate.
Of course. And what about the times when you've been? I can imagine that you've probably been disadvantaged, but also massively disrespected at times because of this condition, right?
Yeah. yeah, like that happens more than I think it would. I think I have like a weirdly unique perspective of being completely fine for say 25 years and knowing exactly how I get treated for that to then how I'm treated now.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't tend to bother me so much, but during that transition period, it was super noticeable, and it was something I would just focus on constantly. Even, for example, paying for something in a shop, I'm stood there with my wallet in my hand, and it's George that they tell
Right. Yeah.
tell the price to and who they expect to
Really?
pay,
Right.
or they'll speak to him
Yeah.
through me,
Yeah.
which
Because
is bullshit.
people see it as, I saw one of your posts that went wild on LinkedIn when you talked about someone saying, is it a disability or something like that? Because it's a condition, right? But you're treated as if it is some sort of disability, are you? Or
Yeah, so it's a really odd one. So it's a neurological condition. Technically, in this country, it's registered as a disability, and there's so little understanding around it that nobody actually
it's
knows.
been around for over 100 years, right? Is that right?
Yeah, 100. So it was discovered weirdly, I think today is like the anniversary of the date in the 1800s, which I can't quote because I will forget. It was first discovered in France.
Right.
And that was the first recorded case, because I get this a lot, that like, oh, it's such a 2023 thing. It's such a like millennial or Gen Z
Right. Yeah.
condition.
Yeah.
But all you have to do is a little bit of reading and you realize that TikTok didn't invent it.
Yeah. No, not at all. Not at all. But in terms of like, I've read up on this. I don't know if this is the case for you, but I think there's different levels, but like it affects your sleep. Things like heavy or sharp objects can be thrown around and that kind of stuff. Has that happened to you? Or?
Yeah. So like my house, the joke is kind of that it's set up for like an adult toddler is the joke. So anything that looks like it could easily move is actually glued in place. So things are glued to shelves. I'm ridiculously short anyway, so anything like either breakable or sharp is in a higher cupboard in my kitchen. I actually enjoy cooking, but I can't do it when I'm alone, and I have to use like so there's these specially designed knives and things, and they're like relatively blunt, and they've got like a flat end so you can't stab and things. But
and what about traveling as well? Do you have to do that on your own? Can you do it on your own, or
so funnily enough, fuck off, people find it absolutely baffling, but I can drive. So people with Tourette's are allowed to drive, but I have different like stipulations. So I'm not allowed to drive a distance for like amount of time longer than 20 minutes. I'm not allowed to drive on the motorway, things like this. But traveling, I very, very, very rarely will travel anywhere on my own. I hate it.
I mean, mate, all these things you have to contend with on a, I was going to say daily basis, but it's a constant thing, right? I want to talk about your partner and your relationship, because I know that he has really massively supported you, as you touched on. But just talk to us about some of the times where it's been dark, it's been difficult, and how have you coped? Because you probably had to delve really deep into your own kind of, into yourself to conquer this kind of constant thing.
Yeah, like if I didn't have George, I would have spiraled a long time ago. I reckon he sees it day in and day out. He sees like the days where it's chilled, where it's bad, well, the days where it's bad. But then he also sees the days that I don't think anyone sees on like socials or anyone really talks about, and that is the days that I absolutely hate it. And I'm like, I'm angry, I'm stressed, I'm doing that dramatic like why me thing, which I think I'm fully allowed to do occasionally.
I'd say.
But it's hard. I just have to remind myself that it's like, it is what it is, and no amount of frustration and being pissed off or wishing it away is going to change it. I've tried God knows how many medications for tics and things, and they just haven't done what they need to do, or the side effects are too worse, so it's like the lesser of two evils. But I kind of have to remind myself that like, this is what it is, and that's how it is now. That the angrier I get over it, like, I'm not achieving anything, because it's not going to change.
But in a way, you've harnessed it and made it into a gift that's elevated your career, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm weirdly thankful for it in that way. Like, it's odd because I hate it, but I'm also like thankful for what I've got.
No, absolutely. So let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. Let's hear about your journey from kind of school to now, because I'm fascinated. You're still so young, but you've achieved so much.
So I was not the best at school. absolutely hated it. So I was one of the like weird kids that always got bullied and things. So the minute I had the chance to leave school at 16, absolutely jumped at the chance. I'm like, I'm not going to college. I'm not going anywhere. I have to like learn anything else. And I thought, I will guarantee I will never sit in a classroom again. Oosh. So I started working then, and I worked in like hotels. I was really adamant I wanted to work in events. I did that for like quite a while. And I got my first management job at 18, which was an event manager for like a boutique 5-star hotel. Absolutely was not qualified for that job, and I 100% blagged my way into it. I remember thinking like, I've got absolutely no fucking business planning people's weddings. I have no idea what I'm doing. But that was like the start of like I think like 9-year career in events.
Wow.
And I think there's definitely a shelf life of how long someone can tolerate doing that. During that time, I went back, did A-levels. I went to uni twice, all while working full time.
What did you study at uni?
So the first time I did marketing enterprise and business management. Second time was events management. That was like,
so was there a plan then at that point to sort of do something in an event? You just literally just went with the flow, right?
I just went with, I think I chose the the overarching course was like business management. And when I chose it, I remember someone saying to me, this is what people who don't know what they want to do choose. And I remember thinking, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Fuck off. So I studied, and then I ended up I wanted like a different role that wasn't so like weekend heavy or out of hours heavy. So I ended up in practice management and marketing for a dental company.
Okay.
And I worked for them for quite a while.
I was going to say your teeth are whiter than mine.
Yeah, God bless veneers. But I think that was the job I was in. And at the time, I remember, so no one in my family had been to uni previously. My parents had never had like an actual career. We grew up with no money. And when I got this job, like this fully corporate job, and thinking back on it now, I think I'd rather gouge my own eyes out than do it. But at the time, I thought, I'm managing this practice. They gave me like a head of marketing role for there. So they had 104 practices at the time. And it was always like, we'll get the train to like head office and things like this. And there was a lot of like meetings, and it was very like corporate in that respect, or like everything had to go through a different department. And like the pay was absolutely shite for the job that you did. I think it was 24k I was paid. And I remember thinking like, this is as good as it will get for me. Like I've got the title, I've got the job role. But just given what I'd seen previously with my parents, I thought, fuck off. This is it. And at the time I was like content, and I was like, it's absolutely fine with this. Fuck off. Then when Tourette's happened, it all went to shit. I thought I'd had everything sorted, and I thought I'd built up this big career so I didn't have to end up like my family were, and I thought I'd kind of like worked my way out of it. But this knocked me back to like square one.
We'll talk about that in a minute, because I want to know how that happened. But you mentioned your family a couple of times. Talk to us about that. What was your upbringing like? What were they like? You said that you didn't want to be like them, which is interesting.
So I have a very, very large family. So I've got 4 sisters and 2 brothers. Fuck off. And we never had any money when we were growing up. My mum was like unwell for like a lot of my childhood. My dad wasn't my favorite person in the world. But it was we never got to go on the holidays. We never got to do the things the other kids
Why wasn't
did.
your dad your favorite?
He just wasn't a nice person.
Not very intimate, not very complimentary.
No, like probably the exact opposite of that. Fucking asshole. Oh, basically. We'll take the tick on that one.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
But
affectionate as well. I meant not intimate, but
he's just not he just wasn't a nice person, and to be fair, he still isn't. So
how did that affect you though?
I hated being at home, so I never got my own room. Obviously, there's so many of us, and we were only in so it was a 3-bedroom house, and one of the rooms had a divider put in it, but like they're talking 3 bedrooms between 7.
It might as well be in the same room anyway.
Literally.
Right.
but yeah, I just kind of like, I always stayed out of the way, kept myself to myself. And we weren't allowed, like, it's not like I could ever go to my room as a kid and like watch TV, because we weren't allowed like TVs in the bedroom. And it was one of my dad's like weird rules and stuff like that.
Just very strict, very suppressing.
Yeah.
And did that make you rebel then, or?
Yeah, I was an absolute arsehole when I got to about 14. Oh, so I got bullied so much at school. And I kind of went the absolute opposite way. I thought, when I got to about 14, 15, I thought, the tough kids don't get bullied, I'll do what they do. So I just became an absolute arsehole. Like, my grades dropped.
Really?
But I did get more friends. Well, some friends. But
What were you doing? Were you just unruly then, or were you?
I was foul. I got arrested and everything as a child. And I started smoking. I was selling cigarettes at school. I would like fence jump and just not bother going. I'd walk into school, then leave. Christ knows what I would do all day, because I would convince other people to do it with me. But yeah, like all of that kind of shit.
So you battle through school, bit of unruly teenager, that kind of stuff. You left. Did you leave the home quite quickly, quite early? You said.
Yeah, so I left home at 16 as well, because naturally at 16 you think you know everything. That was not fun. I still remember the apartment I moved to as well. It was horrific. Like, it was all like, so it was all in one room, like a studio apartment.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking freezing.
Right,
it was like on the 8th floor of this old Regency building, single glazing, wooden floor. But it was
Yeah.
But at the time I thought, I'm not at home, so this is.
Did you know that you were gay at that point, or?
Yeah, so I always knew.
From what age though?
Oh God, I don't know. Do you know?
Right.
Weirdly, like as long as I can remember, I knew I was like different to everybody else. Fuck off. And my best friend was a girl. She still is. To be fair, we're still friends. But everybody used to say when we were kids, like, "Oh, those two will marry each other," and I remember thinking, like, "Fucking won't."
Right. Was that why you were bullied? Do you think other people picked up on that?
Yeah, and I always had like the hand-me-down like clothes and things. Like, when I started senior school, I started with like my sister's old blazer and old shirts with like the buttons on the opposite side and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and I was so short as a kid as well. Like, I think from year 7 to year 9, I had so embarrassing. I had these like growth hormone things through my GP because I just wasn't growing. So for those like sort of 3 years during school years, I stayed 4'4" the entire time.
Wow.
And there was no guarantee that I would grow.
But that must have been, you're laughing about it now, but that must have been really challenging though, actually.
Oh, 100%. And I think the time I noticed most is I don't think you realize how much other kids grow until you're not. So after like that 6-week like summer break, I'd go back and think, why the fuck is everybody still even taller than I?
So did you hide your sexuality, or was you quite open about it? Or
so I hid it completely until I left school, because I did not go to the type of school where that was like.
You'd have been. What happened? Okay. What would have happened if you did? Do you reckon?
God, I got beat up for being like gay and stuff at school anyway, without even telling anyone or admitting it. It was just on the assumption. But yeah, as soon as I turned 16, I'd met a boy online, and he was a bit older than me. And then we ended up together, and we were together about 3 years from then.
Fond memories.
Good memories. But
they didn't quite work out by the sound of it.
Absolutely not, thankfully. But I remember like I learned a lot then, and like he was very confident in being gay, but wasn't that like stereotypical gay man that everybody would make the jokes about or whatever. Like, you wouldn't know unless he told you.
Yeah.
And he kind of taught me that like you don't have to be this like massive over the top camp person to be gay. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was and I did learn a lot from him, because I kind of got to see a different lifestyle as well, because he had a very like upper middle class upbringing, and I kind of learned a lot from that. And over the first 2 years of spending so much time with him and his family, I think that's how I managed to get into the job I had, because I knew all the right things to say. I'd kind of experienced it from the other side, which was like a world away from my off old life.
Yeah.
But yeah, because 15-year-old me was definitely not suited to working in a 5-star hotel.
No. So you kind of you ended that relationship. At this point, you're kind of late teens, early 20s, right?
Yeah.
What happened next?
I continued to work, and then I was always like the kind of like the boring one. Like, I didn't want to go on my friend like holidays and things because I was kind of so dedicated to building up like this big career. Like, all of my friends were already away at uni at this point, and I was like adamant that I'd made the right choice in like not going and just working and trying to build a career. And like the titles were coming in by the time I was 18, and like I said, I got that event management job, and I thought I was like winning. But like the pays of all these jobs are absolutely shy.
It's
but
amazing,
at the time,
isn't
I
it?
was like,
How we're indoctrinated and taught, to get the wife or the husband and the car, the house, and all that, and get a 40 grand job wherever it is, and then work to your 70, then have fuck all left to show for it. I mean, thank
and that
God
was what I was on. Like, I was literally like, I need to get the title and the salary, get a nicer place, and then just work. Like, if I think back on it now, in any of those jobs, fuck off. I wasn't happy doing any of them.
No.
I just did them, and I was under the assumption that absolutely everyone's in the same boat. You do a job you hate for 5 days a week, and then you've got the weekend, and
totally.
that's it.
I think 70, 80, even higher percent of the population are just doing that. They're going through the motions. They're going to work. They're earning the money. They're coming home. And
fuck off.
I talk about purpose quite a lot, but it's quite an overused word. But I think a lot of people in this world don't even know why they're doing what they're doing, right? So what changed for you? Was it the Tourette's that kind of kicked you out of that? Or?
So I always wanted to start my own business, and I always thought one day I would. Absolutely zero intention behind me saying one day I'll do it. It was like never gonna happen.
Right.
And
okay.
deep down, I knew that. I just thought it's like that tiny bit of hope of not having to do a job I hated forever. So I thought, one day I'll do this, or one day I'll do that. And fuck off, bitches. And I just kept that up, and I was like, one day I'll do it, one day I won't, blah, blah, one day I might. And the intention at first was like I was going to become like a self-employed like event planner, because I worked with so many people back then who were like freelance and stuff, and I thought I could do that. And then I didn't want to, and then I thought, I'll go back to it one day, and maybe I'll like plan weddings or something like that.
So no real kind of dried ambition, really.
Absolutely
just
none.
Kind of,
and then
go with the flow. Yeah.
And then when Tourette's happened, I realized how difficult it is to actually get a job or get employed. Like I wasn't fired from my other job, like the dental one. I was invited to leave. That's the term.
Oh, okay.
They use. At the time, I was fucking fuming.
Yeah.
Fuck off. And I thought everything I'd worked so hard for, like the title, the salary, blah blah blah, be it all not that great. But that was kind of like taken away, and I thought, I'm fucking back where like my family were. I was like, if I'd have not done any of that stuff before, not bothered with uni, not bothered with the stress and the jobs, I would have still been in the same position. Do you know what I mean?
That must have been a bit shit.
I hated it. It kind of felt like that was all I had and everything I'd worked for, and it was just taken away. At the time, I was so angry at them, but looking back on it now, I was not suited to doing that job anymore.
But if they did that in this day and age, they would have got in trouble for it. I think back then it was just like you can get away with a lot more back then, I think.
Yeah, and everything just like slides under the carpet, and it's fine. And I like to get a diagnosis of Tourette's as well. It's a 12-month process, so you have to wait from when the tics start and when it's first noted. It's 12 months from that day.
That's ridiculous. I mean, you can tell, can't you, after
fuck off. Yeah, it's so stupid. So until then, I didn't even have like a diagnosis as like protection or anything like this. It was just fuck off.
But the whole experience, I'm sure you've got some examples where people with Tourette's to find a job and get a job without being discriminated against must be fucking challenging.
It's horrific. Like, it's so, like, I had so many shit interviews that I actually lost count. I think that was probably the darkest it got, when I was like struggling. I was applying for jobs on every single level I could think of, from like marketing directors to like office cleaners, like absolutely anything. And I was thinking, like, I still have, like, I'd blown through my savings during like being off from being sick. I'd only just gone back to work. And now I have no job, no income, and like the most minimal savings. And like George and I still have a house. We still
Yeah, of
have like
course.
everything to pay for. Like that doesn't change. And I was like struggling it so much, and the interviews were just fucking awful. And people treat like I didn't realize how shit people are prepared to treat someone that's different. Fuck off. I think the final straw for me, interviews wise, was I went for one that was booked for an hour and a half. I'd done like 4 online aptitude tests for them, and I got an email back. Actually, it was like the following day or the 2 days after, and they said they were really impressed with my answers on the test. So I actually bypassed the first round of interviews, and they were like, "You can meet in the second." And I remember thinking, like, this is it now. Like, I've put everything back on track. If I get this job, I'm back, like, slightly above where I what was.
Yeah.
Had a sinking feeling of thinking, fuck, I didn't actually tell anyone in the interview that, in the test or the cover letter, that I had Tourette's. But I was like, I'll explain on, explain on the day. Because part of me knew if I'd have said it in an email, they would have found a way to take it away from me. And I think I was just kind of keeping that hope that maybe they won't. The day came, it was booked for an hour and a half. The receptionist at that place was the biggest bitch to me ever.
Really?
She was so rude. She was like, "What is wrong with you?" And fuck off. And when you're stressed, and I was stressed about this interview, I was nervous, your tics are worse.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And she was like, I'll take you through to meet them. She was like, but I think they'll be a bit surprised as well. Then on the journey to the room was just having a go at me pretty much the whole time about why I didn't say anything.
Honestly, that would get me so angry, honestly.
I was like, but back then my confidence was so low that I would have never argued my like point. Do you know what I mean? I absolutely did not stick up for myself. I just stood there and just got spoke to like shit.
Right.
Then we got into the room with the panel, and fuck off. She sort of hung around in the doorway, this receptionist, and she told them before I did what was wrong with me. And then they were having a chat about it. Nobody said hello to me. They were having a chat about me while I'm stood right there. And I was in there for 4 minutes, and then my name was still on the printed interview pack on the table. So they didn't
actually interview you then?
No.
Right.
And they told me that it just wouldn't work out in that role, but thank you so much for coming, and we'll consider you for anything.
Well, I think you dodged a bullet, to be honest.
Yeah, same. And I was so gutted though. Like that was definitely the worst it got. And I think
how did it affect your mental health and stuff like that?
So that night, and I've spoke about this before, that night that was just the tip of the iceberg. I think because I felt like I got so close, like bypassing that first interview. That was the night I tried to take my own life because I thought I can't do this anymore. Like I was like, I'm not gonna get out of where I am. I hate the condition. It made me absolutely hate myself. And I'd just been absolutely torn apart by 5 people in one room while they're all
it's a culmination of everything, and that was just
and that was just the day that I just thought, fuck it, I'm not doing this shit anymore.
What did you attempt to try to do?
So I didn't even write. I didn't write a note. I didn't send a message. I didn't do anything. I knew George was working nights, and I just switched my phone off and took an overdose. And I thought that would be like, that would be it. And I am so thankful that it wasn't. And people had tried calling me because I was under the impression as well that people just didn't actually give a shit anymore. Because I think I hated myself that much that it was a struggle to to see that anyone would actually care about you. So I was, I think it was my mum that I had tried calling so many times and came around. Other people had keys to my place. After that, that was the like turning point where I thought I am never letting anyone else make me feel that bad again. And that I think was the boost for what happened after.
Thank you for sharing that. I think anyone who's been in that situation where they've had suicidal ideation or attempted suicide knows that, as you say, when you're in that situation, I've been in it myself a couple of times, that you honestly do feel that your life and everyone else's life will be better off if you're not around, don't you? So what would you say to the people who think it's selfish or whatever, or you know, don't really understand it? And also, what advice would you give someone in that situation as well?
So I think the people that don't understand it, I had those conversations after. This is not like, this wasn't a first thought. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I had a shit day. This is, the only way I'm
No,
going to do it. Do
exactly.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think people think that you're taking the easy way out. The fuck off, the struggle and the trauma that was behind that decision, like the fear, the upset, and weirdly, it's like tied in with like almost like a feeling of relief that
Yeah.
fuck off.
Yeah.
Like I said so many times, I just wanted like an off switch for
Yeah.
fuck off the ticks, and to me that was it. That was the off switch. And I think people have to understand that it's not a decision that's ever taken lightly. Do you know what I mean? I think they think that people just think, oh,
Wake
you know
up
what,
one day, yeah.
fuck it, I'm gonna
It
kill
kind of
myself.
builds up, doesn't it? And then you get to a point where, when I was in that situation, I almost got a sense of excitement about it happening.
It just that being it. I remember being calm right at the end, thinking like, I'm not gonna have to.
No, the pain's gonna go,
and that's gonna be fine. And I think for the people that are struggling with it, I'm so sorry. Now my eyes are watering.
Go for it.
I think for the people that are struggling with it, you kind of have to realize that, you're not the issue. Do you know what I mean? And you're cared about so much more than you think. I didn't realize until right at the end, like afterwards, that how many people actually cared.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by it. And you have to talk about it, because I kept everything in, and I was almost leading by example. People weren't talking to me about things because I wasn't talking to them, and I would be completely shut off, so they would think I'm fine.
Yeah.
And it isn't until you open up and you fuck off, tell them, they realize that, you know what, Luke's not okay.
But it's okay to cry. Like I'm crying now a little bit, which I think we both are. But also as well, you never can tell. It can be the most gregarious, happy, bubbly person that's struggling, or the quiet one. It doesn't discriminate, is it? You know,
no, anyone. Like I don't think I came across half as down as I was during it either.
Sure.
Everyone's like,
put on a brave face.
You're making such like you're making the best of this situation. And inside I thought, I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
But after that, that's when everything had like completely changed. I think that was the biggest turning point for me, because I thought I saw the impact I had on everyone else. Fucking hell, bitches. Saw the impact I had on everyone else. Refused to feel like that again, or let anything outside make me feel like that again. So
So it's interesting, isn't it? When we reach that real fucking darkness, that pit, it's almost like that's when the growth happens. It's almost like you almost had to go through that to get to where you are now, right? So just talk to us about that. You know, what happened?
It was definitely a like claw your way back up kind of moment.
Yeah.
And I said like I refused to let anything make me feel like that again. And I remember just sitting there thinking, how the fuck am I getting out of this? Because I can't go back into the same situation. And the career one was such a big deal for me, because that's where I'd put all of my effort to start with, and that was almost like my ticket out of my old life.
Of course.
And I thought, I need to get that. Once I get that back on track, I'm good. George, bless him, had stuck with me the whole time, so I didn't have to worry about that side of the things. And he was like, I'll help you wherever I can, blah blah blah. And I thought, if no one's going to hire me, I will just hire myself. I was like, I know enough about something somewhere to...
You just had this inner belief at this point.
Yeah, I just thought someone will pay me to do something. I remember seeing all these job titles that I wasn't getting as well, thinking they would pay me to do this job. Like I know how to do it. They're just not fucking giving it to me.
Yeah.
So I was searching online and I saw an advert for a thing about like being a virtual assistant. I had absolutely no idea what a virtual assistant was. I hadn't been in that world at all. And it was like a training thing, like an online training program. I think it was £450. I didn't have that money. Like I hadn't been earning anything. We'd kind of blown through the majority of our savings.
Yeah.
But George paid for it for me, because he was like, it's the first time I've seen you actually happy about something. And the reason I was happy about it was because I thought, I was reading what a virtual assistant does, and I thought, I can do all this stuff. I can work from home. Like I don't have to see people. I don't have to talk to people.
Okay. Yeah.
So I did this course, and I think I'd got like quarter of the way through the course before I just plowed into it and set up everything I already needed to set up. And I was like, for the first time ever, I thought, fucking hell, like I've actually done something like myself from like the ground up, and like this is mine.
Yeah.
And oh God, I remember thinking like, how am I going to get clients? And I was following Leah Turner at the time as well. And she was talking, she just kind of started to grow on LinkedIn.
Sure, yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like taking her different tips and things like this. And I had like a few different jobs come in through my website, which were like transcribing. Oh God, I will never transcribe anything else. I'm thankful for the jobs at the time, but that is not for me.
Yeah.
And because of that, Leah at the time owned a company called Stereotype, which
Yes,
did transcription as well.
absolutely.
And in a brief conversation, because I asked her, I was like, I need help, blah, blah, like, blah, 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 like, this has happened, like a really brief version. And we got talking, and Leah was like, oh, I didn't realize you did transcription as well. She was like, I could probably send something your way.
Right.
And then she said she was going to ring me. And up until this point, every communication I'd had with anyone I'd worked with had been email only.
Yeah, right.
And I was thinking, fuck, like, how do I get out of the conversation? And she was growing by the day at this point as well, her profile. And I thought, like, she's super popular. I can't, like, say no. And I remember stressing to George, thinking, like, fuck off. Saying to him, like, I was like, how the fuck do I get out of it? I was like, because she's not going to work with me. You're not going to want to work with me. Like, all of this. And in the end, I thought, I'm just going to have to bite the bullet. And I told her. She did not bat an eyelid, and she just really didn't give a shit. And we were just then talking about transcription and things. And she was like, oh, there'll be a few other things. And then she said to me, she was like, I really think it would help other people. She was like, because you've told me more in the last 5 minutes about Tourette's than I've ever known before.
Yeah.
She was like, maybe make a video for LinkedIn or consider it. And I was like, absolutely fucking not going to happen.
Yeah.
And with a bit more convincing, I made it. And I think it took me about, I think I'd had it about a week before I posted it. It absolutely blew up. And
I mean, it's a testament to Leah. I mean, she deserves all the success that she's got, but I know that she's really, not just at that moment, but since then, she's really been a support for you, hasn't she?
Oh, 100%. And I think I was only saying recently that I would nowhere near be in the same position as I am now without her help. And it's just the advice and the knowledge and the confidence boost, because like my confidence was still zero before meeting Leah. Like, it was building up very, very slowly.
Did you, because of what's happened to you, I wouldn't be surprised if it's true, that did you not kind of doubt humanity and kind of like, when you're in that situation, I'm sure that there's not many people like Leah, but generally you must have thought most people are just pricks, for want of a better term, right?
100%. And that's what, like, part of it as well. Like, I see everyone on a surface level and they seem like nice, and then they meet me, fuck off. And I would see how they treat me, and I wasn't sure. Like, I'd seen Leah online so much, and I thought, she's so nice, and we chatted in DMs, and I thought, is it just going to be another one of those things where this person meets me and then thinks,
exactly,
fucking hell, like, can't deal with that, or that's annoying, or
so how have you dealt with that, and how have you kind of like found the good ones from the pricks?
I think now part of it comes down to not really giving a shit is like the wrong term, but do you know what I mean? Like,
not really.
I spent a lot of time caring so much what people thought of me and what their opinions were, and now, like, whatever anyone thinks is none of my fucking business. Like, I don't care. Like, unless they're like a client of mine or that kind of thing, like, I'm not really interested in what someone thinks.
No.
And I've kind of like, I don't know if it's been through like almost like branding or whatever, but I've kind of like just only attracted the people that like are accepting or that want to work with me. And my business has now changed into the biggest, like, almost like neurodiversity hub possible. So I think 95% of our client base is neurodiverse.
Isn't it so interesting when you I call it stepping into your power. When you step into your power and you just accept and love yourself for who you are. And as you just say, you do attract that back. It's I know it sounds a bit weird and a bit sort of university, kind of stuff, but it's so true.
100%. I would have said it was bullshit to start with, and then until that's actually become like the reality, and now I have such a good network of people that I enjoy working with, that I enjoy spending time with, that I like love being around, and like my client base, they're all like me. Do you know what I mean? And they all had those same fears of like, oh, like, I was worried someone would like judge me, that kind of thing. And I think
And how
not here.
to me you're a superstar,
Fuck
mate.
off.
I'm in awe of you for what you've achieved. I've got to say
Thank
that.
you.
How have you handled kind of? There's different levels of fame, for God's sake. Obviously, Leah's massive. But it's all relative, isn't it? But it must have been a bit of a transition for you from going from that job to where you are now to now running a big business and being big on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff.
It's I don't know, it's really hard to put into words. Like, it's been a crazy journey, but I'm still like super thankful for it. And I think that's where someone can change, when they stop being thankful and it just becomes like just another thing. Like, I know it probably happens to other people a lot more than me, but a few weeks ago I was absolutely buzzing because somebody recognized me. I was shopping with George.
I got that a couple of times. You feel like, oh, I'm a famous person.
Yeah,
now.
and it gives you that boost. And I was like, I'll brag about it to my friends because I'm like, I fucking love it. And I just think I'm so lucky to be where I am, and I compare it to where I was, and I think like this is everything I would have wanted back then. So that kind of like extra popularity and thing. I think
that's right. I really see that in you, and I really see that in Leah as well. She's very humble with what she is, and, very grateful, and she's still the same person, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes fame, in whatever level you call it, can really change people, right?
Yeah, and I think you still have to, like, I get messages constantly on like TikTok, and it's people asking for like advice, and I will always take the time to answer it if I can, or send them where they need to go. Like, same with LinkedIn and Instagram. Like, I get these messages, and I remember saying to George, because he was like, why'd you spend so much time replying? And I was like, I would rather do that than
see. That's that. I admire that, and I think Leah does that as well, as best she can. But without being too disparaging on others, there are other people on LinkedIn that have got hundreds of thousands of followers that wouldn't even give people with less than 10,000 followers the time of day, and it really pisses me off. What do you think about that?
I think it's gross. To be fair, I don't give a shit how many followers someone has, what their reputation is. Like, if they're nice to me, I'll be nice to them. Do you know what I mean? And I think, that's it in its simplest form. Just like, don't be a knob.
So what about LinkedIn then? Obviously, it's a brilliant platform. It's transformed my business and yours. We've made loads of friends out of it. But what would you say the good, bad, and ugly parts are of LinkedIn?
So good are definitely the people, and fucking hell, and the network that like I've met there, and it's such a good, like, I've got such a good like group of people. All of my clients are on it, and the majority have come from it as well. But there's definitely a dark side of LinkedIn. So I kind of do attract, with like my videos and things, those people that don't think I should have a normal corporate job, and it fucking baffles me how they'll so openly say it. I'm like, people can see your comments, and there's a backhanded compliment like, oh, I would have hired you, like I could find a back office role. Like
fuck off, mate.
Fuck your back office role. But
it's that brazen sort of misunderstanding. I think LinkedIn's opened my eyes around how kind of one-dimensional people can be as well.
Yeah. And everything's like very surface level. And I also find as well, it's putting your money where your mouth is kind of thing. Like, I share a lot about what my company does to be inclusive, to make people feel comfortable. And people are acting like it's the most mind-blowing thing in the world. And I think, I'm not doing anything that difficult. Like, I'm getting I got a pregnant woman a sofa. Like, do you know what I mean?
So the post blew up, and it was like, rightly so to a degree. But like, hang on a second, when you actually put it in context, you've got the pregnant girl sofa. Like, I got a more comfortable chair that whatever it was, she could spread out on. Like, this is the small sofa. That was it. There's a snack drawer which we have in our office, and people are like, oh, I really wish this would come in at my company. Oh, I wish I'd consider doing this. And to me, it's just like, why are you not doing it? Like, this is like, we had another post blow up because the girls were saying about having to, like, in our communal office, there's like the pay dispenser thing for like tampons and things like this. So we just made a period box in the office, and we just put everyone's like chosen products in there, and it just stays in the drawer. And like one of my staff shared about it, and that blew up as well. And people were like, oh, this is such a good idea. And I think, to me, it's just like, you just treat people like people. And I don't think I'm doing anything that radical or that different. And I just think I struggle to understand why other people don't do it. I was going to say, what do you think people can do more to help in that regard then?
I just think, like I said, treat people like people, and it's the most, I don't know. I really struggle with people who just don't get it.
Yeah.
Because like I would rather sacrifice a chunk of my profits and make sure that people that work with me are comfortable. Do you know what I mean? And it's this, it filters through absolutely everything, because without my team and them being the way they are, like I wouldn't be able to do what I do.
Yeah.
And for me, like even we had recently, like a client spoke to one of my team like absolute shit. It was nice to me, and then back to being rude about them, so we got rid of them. Like it's easier for me to replace a client than it is to replace like one of my team, and I wouldn't want to replace any of them either.
So you've mentioned that you've haven't really bothered with a business plan. You've kind of wing it till you got where you got to now, which is amazing. Do you have a plan for the future, or are you just going to just carry on just going with the flow? So
I always thought winging it was the best way to do it once I was doing it and it was working. Now to the point where we've got 2 offices, we're a team of 8 in-house, we've got freelancers, and now I think I've said this for like a year now. I was like, now I think maybe I should like consider it and put a plan in place and do something. And then the other part of me is like, fuck it, we'll just do this. So I take advice still from Leah. I blow up Leah's phone constantly. I'm like, I was like, quick one. And I have a really good team as well. Like my accountant is also a business consultant. Right. So I get. So
what advice would you give? Because I think sometimes you can have all these plans and visions and missions and values, and you know it's about action most of the time, isn't it?
100%. And like my advice would be, just fucking do it. Because if I could have looked at all of these things I had on paper, the things I've got now, planned them, thought about them, and probably decided, you know what, maybe not yet. And I know probably being as impulsive as I am with things, like I do have to rein it in sometimes, and I have like my team to do that for me. Like Katie, for example, will be like, what the fuck are you doing? Absolutely not.
You have good people around you, right?
Yeah, but if I'd have really considered, say, even getting my like first, when I had me and like my first employee, then getting another one, if I'd have really considered that at the time, everything then was saying no, like don't do it. But I was like, oh fuck it, we'll do it anyway and see what happens.
So what stresses you out then? In business owners, reasonable sized business, what keeps you up at night? What stresses you out at the moment?
I get that typical like business owner thing of, what if I wake up tomorrow and suddenly lose every single one of my clients? Have that. But also it's like, what am I going to do? So the way my company works, I can literally just keep adding a person, and I can just keep growing that way. And I think my main thing at the moment is, number one, do I want to keep doing that? And number two, like, what would I do otherwise? Do you know what I mean? And I think this has been a consideration, because it ticks by perfectly fine how it is, and we're doing well. And I think the thing is, number one, I'm wondering, like, is this just a lucky break? Fuck off. Is this gonna last? And number two, like, if I'm gonna do something else, what am I gonna do next? Like, what direction am I gonna take it? Everyone else seems to have a plan, and I'm just like,
just well, fuck it. I take my hat off to you. I think it's sometimes the best plan is to have no plan and just do it, as you say. So throughout your life, then, mate, you've had some ups and downs. You've had some big trauma to contend with. Have you had therapy at all?
Yeah, so I've had a few different types of therapy, even down to like behavioral therapy to like get like through ticks, like psychotherapy, stuff like this. And it's kind of a running joke in my office that I've had every kind of therapy you can have. I even had like speech therapy, because I never like I couldn't talk for hours, like months. But like all of that kind of thing, at first, if you'd have asked me any type of those therapies before this, I would have been like, it's a waste of fucking time. Like, not for me. Like, if it works for someone, it works, but it wouldn't work for me. Now I think I probably wouldn't have got through it without.
Are there any other areas you think that you need to work on?
I kind of want to work on, like, personally just like relaxing a little bit when I'm out. The journey here from where I was like 4 minutes, and the thought of walking myself, I was like, wow, fuck, like I can't do it. And so naturally get an Uber. But also I want to, like, I spoke about this recently as well. I overdress for everything that I do usually. And it's because, like, I know people are going to stare at me So I don't want to look like shit when they do it. But even like pop into the shop to get milk, I wouldn't ever do it in like.
All right, you have to be your glam.
Yeah, so I have to glam up to go to the fucking garage.
Wow.
But I kind of want
you're famous. You got to, haven't you?
I kind of want to just like, I don't know. I want to kind of work on like just chilling out a bit and not.
Yeah, right.
Because I overall I don't care about what people think. But obviously there's some part of me that still does of like.
But I think that's also a good thing in a way. If you totally didn't give a shit, I think it can be a little bit counterproductive. You've got to have some element of kind of what, you know. So we're kind of coming towards the end. It's gone really, really quickly, but there's a couple more things I really want to,
of course,
get down to. George, talk to me about him.
So George is possibly one of the nicest people I've ever met, and definitely the most patient. George and I are like chalk and cheese. So he is super patient, super chilled out, not impulsive in the slightest. Everything is considered. And he always sounds like, when he's given like advice for something, he always weirdly sounds like he's like rehearsed it. Like it comes out that well.
Wow.
That I'm the complete opposite. Like someone will ask me for advice, I'm like, oh fuck, I don't know. Let's talk about it and see where we go.
Yeah.
But he's just like, I couldn't imagine not having him. Now,
so what's he given? Apart from the obvious, what's he given you? Do you think? What's the best things he's given you?
I think that extra boost in like self belief, because to him it was never like about building me up. It was almost about just convincing me to think how he does. Do you know what I mean? Because he never doubted me. Even when I was like, I was earning no money, I had no job options or whatever, he didn't treat me any different whatsoever, and he still had that belief. He was like, well, you'll sort it, it's fine. He was like, and then we'll both fix it. Like there was never any like kind of doubt, and it was always that little like light at the end of the tunnel that like.
And do you have future plans with him in terms of?
I do. So on the 14th of December we are bringing our son home. So we've been in the adoption process for over 2 years now. And it has been, I think we had five non-starters with adoption that kind of got through the process, and then for some reason or another, it's just the way.
Well, that must have been really challenging, right?
Yeah, and I think you kind of like, it's kind of easier to deal with in the way that everything's kept at a distance, so you don't kind of meet them until the very last thing anyway, and it was kind of all those constant knockbacks. But yeah, now everything's been confirmed, and we bring our son home on the 14th of December.
How old is he?
He turns 1 on the 4th of December. My God.
So absolutely, congratulations.
Thank you.
You must be beyond excited about that.
Honestly, I absolutely cannot wait. I can't stop buying tiny clothes and tiny shoes and toys, and we've done the nursery.
Have you?
Like exactly how like I wanted it, basically. There was no compromise with George. I was going to try and make it like a compromise, but no. But both of us are like absolutely ecstatic about
it. So that kind of difference in character, like yin and yang, have you ever like, how has that helped you in terms of like you're impulsive, he's not? Like almost like you balance each other out, or?
Oh yeah, 100%. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it drives me fucking nuts. And I just think like I can watch him, and he learns from me, because he gets things from me in the way that like George is a saver. He'll save as much money as possible. Like he's in and he's in the police, and they have a huge pension, and he kind of doubles what a normal person would put in their pension, because he's so like about forward planning. And the absolute drama a few weeks ago of him wanting to buy a Fitbit and just in and ahhing constantly, and he's like, oh, I just don't know if I'm gonna use it. And I think, fucking hell, buy the Fitbit.
Just get on with it, mate.
Literally. And in the end I was like, George, please just buy the Fitbit, because it was driving me nuts. I was like, you can afford it, you're gonna use it, it's paid for itself. Do you know what I mean? It's
funny how that ordinarily you probably thought you'd never be with someone like that, but actually you just I think you learn to not tolerate, that's the wrong word, you learn to kind of be curious and grow and learn from other people's little ways, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I think I'm looking forward to fucking hell, being a parent with him, because I want like our son to have everything I didn't have, and I absolutely will lack the ability to say no. So that's why I'm glad George is there, because
amazing.
Freddie could ask for a puppy And I'd be like, absolutely. Like, we have 2 dogs already. I don't want another one. But if he asked for it, I'd be like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Whereas that's why I need George to be like, no.
Amazing, mate. Congratulations. So you were saying you were nervous about a 4-minute walk, but you've done a fucking TED talk. What was that like?
That TED talk was, I think, one of the most stressful things I've done. And it's interesting when people watch it and they say it flows really well, because it is not the TED talk I had planned.
Right.
So while I was stood backstage waiting to go on, I was ticking and I was moving my hands and I was actually shuffling my note cards. So when I walked out on stage and I looked at my first pointer, it wasn't the first card, it wasn't the second card. Right. It was something from like towards the end. And I thought, oh, I'll just shuffle that back and see what's next. And it was in a completely different order. So I thought, oh, fuck it, I'm going to have to just wing it.
No way.
Out of all the like rehearsing and plans, I actually just completely winged the TED talk. And I weirdly think that helped me to like relax enough to do it, because I was so conscious of what was coming next.
It was so powerful, mate. It actually made me cry. The way you kind of got through that. I mean, that must be one of the most, well, I'm sure you've had lots of achievements, but does that rank quite highly?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was like, seeing other people as well, like Ellie Middleton, for example, was there on the same day. And I was thinking, like, how are people even considering me on the same level as Ellie Middleton to speak at the same event? Do you know what I mean? And it was like part of that. Like, I still don't feel like I've done, I don't know, I almost feel like I shouldn't be around those people or speaking at the same events, because I think I look up to them so much that when someone puts me almost at the same thing as them, I think, oh shit, like, I don't think I'm anywhere near that level. But
2 more questions. You've revealed quite a lot on this podcast and in other podcasts as well, but what's one thing people don't know about you?
Or one thing people don't know about me. Oh my God, that is a tough question. I'm trying to think what I think maybe that I still struggle a bit mentally with Tourette's. Like, I make out everything's fine and I make the jokes about it, and I'm worlds away from where I am. But I think it happens a lot more often than people would think. That like, I'll spend the whole day at home crying, and I'll be angry and stressed and annoyed. Recently. So probably I was like just a bit overworked, and I just thought, you know what, I can't, like, I'm fucking done today. And I stayed home and I stayed in bed all day and I cried for most of it. George came back from work and was like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, just being anxious, overwhelmed, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and everything, like, and I think, especially on TikTok, which I'm finding where I think I need to be slightly more honest, because people are finding like, oh, you deal with it so well. And I think, realistically, I don't. Like, I deal with it well some days, but other days, and I think I don't tend to let people see that, because I almost don't want the sympathy and I don't want people to think it's bothering me. But
that's interesting, because you've probably seen some of my stuff on LinkedIn, and I've been quite open and stuff like that. And there was the crying CEO thing, all that kind of stuff. But I think that you make a really interesting point. I was told about 3 months ago, oh, you come across as vulnerable, but I don't think you are. And I was like really shocked by it. And then kind of like, there's some more stuff coming out, and I'll kind of open up a little bit more. But what's your view on kind of like really opening up? Because it can be a challenge, but I think that sometimes social media, we're still wearing a mask a little bit, aren't we? Or are we? I don't know. What do you think?
I think to share the full picture and to be 100% authentic, you have to show the shit side. And I've definitely been guilty of not opening up fully, maybe like a bit, and not showing the full picture. Like, nobody needs to know I spent like 2 days looking at absolute shit, crying in my bed because I hated everything and everyone. Just to be absolutely fine the next day. Do you know what I mean? But then I also think on the flip side, you need to be comfortable with the amount you're sharing. Like, at the time, like, probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, I could think of nothing worse than talking about the Tourette's making me feel shit. But now I think I'm almost getting to that point, and especially on like TikTok and LinkedIn with the audience size, I kind of want to, like, I want to show the full picture, and I know part of that involves showing that. Yeah,
but I think the key difference is that you're not doing it for sympathy. I think people misconstrued it. Oh, he or she or they, or they're doing it. No, you're doing it probably to help yourself and other people. Would you say?
Yeah, and I think that's, you're giving them a bit of information they need to know. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. Do you know what I mean? Exactly, and if that's the way that you have to teach them, is the way you have to teach them. And I get followed by quite a lot of people who have Tourette's as well, and I don't want them to think that oh my God, why is
No.
Luke always happy? Because I know the reality of what they're
Exactly.
going through.
It's almost like you are a role model. So on that point for Tourette's, what advice would you give people with Tourette's? Also things like, do they put it on their CV, all that kind of stuff? What advice would you give?
First of all, before you can focus on like the jobs and like how you're feeling about it, you have to accept that you have it and it isn't going. Like, that's it. Everyone gets hopeful about medication, that constant lift up and drop down of fuck off. Will this work? Won't it work? And usually it doesn't. So you have to accept that you have it and it's not going. Anything that like limits the symptoms then is a blessing.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And you have to accept it before you can expect other people to, because I didn't. And whether people accept it then or not, if you don't, you think it's all bullshit and that they're lying. And as for putting it on the CV, it's such a tough one, like depending on the jobs. I've been asked this so many times, I can never give a concrete answer. I'm like, if you feel comfortable to do that, put it, and then you can put a little subsection of just like the type of ticks that are involved.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Or you can just leave it. I would probably recommend telling them either in the CV or a cover letter or even a separate email. But I know exactly how they feel, and it almost gives me butterflies like thinking about it, because I've been there and thinking like, what are they going to say? But on the plus side, if you tell them and there's an issue with it, like, do you really want to fucking work there anyway?
Exactly. On that note, we've got to wrap it up. But absolute pleasure. I'm in full admiration of you, mate, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.